is, we don't work for you anymore, Mr. Reid. Enjoy your retirement. We don't work for you anymore, Nancy Pelosi. You're fired. And Mr. Obama and your czars, you're next, because now we can see 2012 from our house.
A little reference there to the Russia comment from way back. Sarah Palin firing up the crowds outside the Tea Party Express yesterday. Former governor later issuing a warning to Republicans regarding the role of the grassroots Tea Party movement. Here's what she said. I think more of the machine within the GOP is going to understand that this We the People message is rising, and it is resonating throughout with the independents, with hardcore conservatives, with moderates. Heaven forbid the GOP machine strays from this message. If so, the GOP is through. Michael Steele joins me now. He is the chairman of the Republican National Committee, of course. Michael, good to see you. Happy birthday. Welcome.
Hey, thank you, Martha. Thank you. And happy birthday to Steve Ducey, too.
Yeah, birthdays all around.
Isn't that crazy?
Isn't that crazy? All right, so, Michael, what do you think about that? She says without the Tea Party, the GOP, the establishment, the party as we've known it all these years is through.
I think that there's an element of truth to that. I'm hearing it all around the country. I mean, I've been on the road since the 15th of September, and folks are saying, look, you know, we're willing to partner up again. We're willing to trust you in your leadership on these issues that we are having to face, from healthcare to jobs. But if you go back to the same old ways, if you go back to big government republicanism, if you go back to spending and trying to go along, to get along with Democrats whose agenda is totally misplaced for the American people, we will not support the Republican agenda, and I appreciate that. And I think there's a lot to be said that we have worked very hard over the past 2 years at the Republican National Committee to reconnect with our base, especially, but more importantly with the broader American electorate. And I think what they've been saying, that grassroots energy out there, is saying that we the people matters, and that's my message on this road trip has been. We understand that we the people matters, and I think you saw in the Pledge to America that was produced by Kevin McCarthy and other leaders in the House, they get that as well.
Yeah, you know what, and you led me right to my next point, because there's a story in the Wall Street Journal this morning that I'm sure you've seen that's getting quite a bit of attention in high levels of the Republican circle, and it's a warning, basically, saying that Republicans, once this election's over, this article suggests that they're going to be willing to negotiate, that they're going to sit down with Democrats, that they understand that they're going to have to negotiate away some things in order to get stuff done. It's a very different message than what we're hearing at the Tea Party rallies.
Well, it is, and that's going to be the balance that's going to have to be struck between the GOP establishment in Washington and the rest of the country. And they're going to have to continue to listen. I mean, the listening doesn't stop once the elections are over. I mean, and that's the key thing that needs to be taken to heart here. And that's what the American people, and particularly those who have realigned themselves with the GOP, whether they're libertarians, Tea Party, conservatives, have said the listening had better not stop once the elections are over, because this could be a very short-lived victory otherwise. And I think that's what Sarah Palin was saying. It's certainly something that I've been saying at the Republican National Committee and working with our state parties.
Yeah.
As we reach and grow, let's make sure we don't stop listening.
All right. What about this idea of shutting down the government? Some of what's being expressed by some of the young guns and some of the people quoted in this article suggests that the Tea Party folks, once elected, would be, unrelenting, that they would want to shut down the government. Have you heard any candidates out there saying that that's what they want to do, that that's what they're going to do once they get to Washington?
I have not heard any candidates say that, but I know for a fact that, and I can tell you, and I've said this again for over a year now, the class of 2010 that comes to the Congress in January of 2011 to elect a new speaker is going to be very different from anything we've seen or heard before. It is much more grassroots oriented. It's much more based in communities and local issues and the impact of federal policies on those issues than we've seen, and it's going to bring a different taste and feel to Washington. I think one that's refreshing and long overdue, but it's going to be an adjustment for a lot of folks who are used to the same
I think you're right. I think you're right about that. You know, what about the Kevin McCarthys and the young guns, which this article points out are not really, in many cases, that young. A lot of them have been around Washington for a very long time. So what happens when you get Rand Paul? Let's just say this is what happens. Rand Paul and Sharon Angle at the table with Kevin McCarthy and Eric Cantor and some of the other folks who've been in Washington a lot longer. I mean, who wins this tussle? Is Social Security on the table? Is health care reform repealed? I mean, the things that people are screaming about. Is the Republican Party willing to go to the mat for things like Social Security, for the debt, for health care reform?
I believe they are, and don't take or make the assumption that because an Eric Cantor or Kevin McCarthy have quote been in Washington that they're part of an older mindset in D.C.
So do you think it's not true, Michael? I'm sorry, but do you think it's not true, this article, that they're talking about, negotiating, that they're talking about making deals with Democrats when all this is over? Is that not true?
I think, can I say something on that? I think that's some of the old hands in Washington trying to get out in front of what's about to come. And I think that there's some blocking and tackling politically that's going on inside the Beltway by the establishment that knows that their life is about to change as they know it, and they want to get in front of that by putting this stuff, putting these little road marks out here. I say let's wait and see and hear the voice of the new leadership that emerges with the new speaker and the new House leadership.
And I should point out that in that story, those are not the people who are quoted. It's other folks who are talking about those people who have been in Washington for a while, and that's an important element to this journal story. But check it out, see what you think. Michael, always good to see you. Have a good birthday.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Martha. God bless.